The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests as individuals, and do not necessarily reflect those of advertisers or sponsors. This show is intended as entertainment and commentary only. The producers strive for verisimilitude, but nothing said on this podcast should be taken as fact by the listener or viewer without performing due diligence.
Hey, all you hats out there, this is Andrew. We're starting off the show a little bit differently this episode. Things are kind of higgledy-piggledy here in KYHO land, but we wanted to make sure that you got a full episode this time. The intro's different, but the hats are the same. So enjoy the episode, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
That existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at.
Hello, and welcome back, you guys, to Keep Your Hat On. I'm Andrew Scott, along with my good friends, Ty Robert Anthony.
Hi.
There you go. And, of course, Chris Vicano.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And Dr. Mark C.E. Peterson.
Hi-ho.
Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Yeah, we'll come back to a greater explanation of that at another time. But welcome back, as I said, everybody. We are the guys from Keep Your Hat On, and we're doing something slightly different. For those of you who are watching us on YouTube, we apologize for not having a YouTube video this past episode. Last episode was a little bumpy for us in a number of ways. The vast majority of it lands on me because I've been in and out of the hospital a number of times over the past 6 months. Of course, I'm the guy that picks a global pandemic as a good time to wind up having a medical issue that puts me in the emergency room. The side benefit of that is I've had more COVID tests in the last 6 months. So I know I'm squeaky clean. I'm headed for another one in the next few months. But also, I got my booster shot while I was in the ER. I wound up in the ER about a week ago, this past Friday. Again, I was in and out. But while I was there, I just stuck out my arm and said, "Booster me," and they did. I will tell you too. No, actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. Not this past time in the hospital, but the time before in the hospital, I wound up getting my standard flu shot. So I am. This is what peak protection sounds like. But I will tell people this. One of the things that we've all experienced, because all four of us are double vaccinated and a few of us are boosted now. The one thing that I will tell people, everybody knows the side effects are not that big a deal. Some people were making it out to be like, oh my God, I'm dying. It's not that, okay? But Chris and I both got our first and second vaccines at the same time. I'm the one that's now had a booster shot. And I will say that the second time, neither Chris nor I really felt much by way of side effects. We were told by a medical professional in our bubble, best thing to do is to really dose yourself up good both before and after with something that carries electrolytes, so like a sports or drink or something like that. That was a little bit missing from me this time. I did experience some side effects. They were not debilitating. I ran a little bit of a fever and I had some mild body ache. But for everybody out there listening, go get your booster. But do understand that you're probably, unlike the last couple times, if you got away with no side effects that time, you'll probably feel a little something this time. But
a little bit punky.
Exactly. Yeah. But I will go on to say that now more than ever, if you haven't gotten your booster shot, and Lord knows if you haven't gotten your vaccination, get vaccinated. We'll talk very briefly about what's in the news here with Omicron. There's a
what do you think?
There's a new variant, and again, for those who don't know, my kid is an actual legit epidemiologist for the state. And, I get some higher level information, not stuff that's, HIPAA protected. My kid is very good about observing those rules. But I do get, 24 hours worth of heads up. Surprisingly, though, Chris and I and my kid were all gathered together for Thanksgiving, which was a wonderful treat because I haven't seen my kid in about 6 months. But
it was a delightful
Yeah, no, it was a good time had by all, definitely. One of the things, though, that was a little weird is I was able to break the news of Omicron to my kid because they go on a news prohibition on the weekends because they're smart.
Yeah. Well, and it was weird watching all of this unfold in real time basically on Thanksgiving Day and into Black Friday.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I think all three of us were, I don't know if Devin broke the news embargo or not, but
they're sense up to speed.
But
you're right. It was a little surreal watching it all.
I was watching the articles just roll in.
Now, the latest thing...
in fact, you and I were texting back and forth. It was like, they named it Omicron, and you're like, yep.
I gotta tell you, I got an article about this, I think, late Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. And it did not have a name yet.
No, it didn't have a name.
It's until Friday.
Simply out of South Africa, and it was heading towards the WHO for review. But they were worried about it.
You're pretty way behind in this, Ty.
No. I'm telling you, Wednesday night I got a heads up about this. Mm-hmm. This was coming down the pike.
Yeah, same here.
So now I know that this is on the WHO's elevated list. It is crushed the market Friday.
Yes.
World round, not just us.
But the thing about that is we are all so gun shy right now that any news that suggests a change in the path of the pandemic is going to make the markets blow up. Here's where we are with it now. It was named Omicron, okay? And one of the things that Chris and I were talking about while we were at Thanksgiving is that traditionally speaking, they started using Greek alphabet letters to name these things in order to be dispassionate towards place of origin. We all know some guy was calling it the Chinese virus, which is both not fair and flat out friggin' racist. But one of the things that Chris and I were discussing is I was like, they're going to wind up skipping a few letters because we have a mu variant. Nu would be the next letter in the alphabet, but it sounds too much like mu, so it's going to wind up causing confusion. And then there's the double thing of the next letter, of course, in the Greek alphabet is Z. And it is, and back me up, Mark, is that how we pronounce XI in Greek? I forget. Is it chi or D or Z or what?
It still sounds that KS sound, that X.
Yes,
so C.
Yeah, that's what I always trying to, I vaguely remember me teaching myself that it sounds like me sneezing.
It would be weird to call it COVID X.
Right? Yeah, that's something that movie writers, script writers would go to.
Save the X for Apple.
Yeah, but, of course, we avoided that for two reasons. Number one, nobody in America knows how to pronounce it, a la I just proved that. Right. And two, of course, XI in most Chinese languages is a word. And there's the double whammy of what that word means, and then also the fact
you, by the way,
right? Yeah.
So that'd be the shish virus, and it's like
the thank you virus. I vote that we need a thank you virus. I think
the thank you virus.
But so there's a whole bunch of things that are loaded into using that. And so I was like, they're going to skip over a couple of those and we're going to wind up with Omicron, which is offensive to nobody. And really what I've seen as of this morning was an interesting piece where one of the doctors responsible for treating this and its discovery in South Africa is noting that it actually appears to be, it is appearing to be more transmissible, but less strong. It seems to be a slightly weaker version. Now,
I was just trying to work out what the symptoms of a thank you virus might be, and I think these might be those symptoms. It's like a mild cold, and then you're better.
Yeah, and you wind up smiling a lot uncontrollably. There.
Yeah. I wonder even if the weaker illness occurs, I still wonder if it has a similar long-term effect profile.
And that's one of those things where we don't know. We have so little information. We're literally talking about something that was detected less than 10 days ago.
That's emerged in the last week, essentially.
Effectively. And of course, I mean, we can say that it emerged within the last week, but it's probably been percolating for the better part of a month. And, but we have to give props to the South African medical community for detecting this so quickly via their testing and logging routines. We so often to this day look at Africa as being, to reach back to an episode that we had early on in our show about being third world. That Africa detected this so quickly is a wonderful example of their medical community really stepping up and being part of the solution and not part of the problem.
I would go a step farther with that in that not only did they detect it, they did their containment measures as quickly as they could, and they got the word out.
Yeah, they brought it to the medical community.
They moved fast. They didn't try to hide anything.
Yeah.
They didn't get their egos in the way.
Yep, they brought it to the medical community within 48 hours of first noticing a cluster of these.
And it's like we're watching where it's going, and it's getting caught at point of arrival.
Yeah.
And people are being quarantined as they step off the plane.
So this could very well be one of these instances where this virus is, and to be specific, this virus seems to have somewhere around 30 mutations in it, which is the highest mutation rate we've seen. And people freak out when they hear the word mutation. But mutations also mean, mutations just simply mean change. And sometimes in virology, they'll notice that a virus will do a dramatic set of changes as part of its evolutionary process where, it's got a lot more mutations on the spike protein, but then it winds up being a less impactful strain, and it's exchanging its strength as a damaging virus in order to keep itself going in the population.
Survivability, exactly.
Yeah.
And, a more lethal virus that's less contagious and self-containing.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to blow sunshine up of anybody's skirt, but we could be witnessing the dumbing down of this virus. The short answer is we don't know enough yet. We are working on it. And the good news, another bit of good news, is that at least in, I believe it's Pfizer's case, Pfizer is saying that from what they're seeing so far, if you are properly and fully vaccinated, and that's key, there seems to be decent protection so far. They haven't finalized any of their research, but they're figuring that this protection will also work against Omicron.
What we can never know, Andrew, is with the mutations is when we get the Wolverine variant mutation.
I'm pulling for the superpowers, I mean,
or the
that's
Deadpool.
what we need. Yeah, the Deadpool version.
Variant,
no,
which doesn't give a shit about
I was just going to say that's
a unicorn.
I got a feeling that's going to be a hard brand to market. But, again, go out, get your booster. If you haven't gotten your shots already, get your shot. Frankly, get any vaccine available where you are. Contact your local health authorities to see where you can get a vaccine near you. But really, to wrap up our intro here, we wanted to take a minute to tell you all at home or wherever you are that we've all decided that we have faces for radio. And so we are stepping back from the video production of this podcast. We will still have a video presence on YouTube. And for all you people that listen to us and subscribe to us on YouTube, number one, thank you. And number B, stay put because we'll be back in full production as far as the audio version available on YouTube shortly. But from me, because I'm the producer, I'm the guy that does the heavy lifting when it comes to producing the episodes. I got shit to do, and we've just been feeling that we can provide more to you as a listening audience by keeping you a listening audience and not a viewing audience. It takes me on average 4 days to produce one of our videos.
But let's just face this, Andrew. We're actually doing this for our listeners.
Right?
Because seeing us, watching us when we're not visible to them actually improves the show.
Right. Well, and of course, we're all so distracting on camera because of, I mean, people are riveted, and they don't absorb all the stuff we're bringing to them.
Yeah. Oh, you went a completely different direction.
I was trying, because
personality rather than content.
You just want to point out the fact that we're 4 ugly old middle-aged bastards sitting around.
I gotta laugh about this because your faces for audio comment. It just makes me laugh because my friend Vivian, you know Vivian, Andy. She early on when we were doing the podcast, she's like, "Oh, so Chris, you're the hot one," and it's like, wow, if I'm the hot one, that is not at all complimentary to anybody else.
Well, and for our listeners, Vivian's the one that should be on camera. So,
totally.
Chris, enjoy being patronized that way. But tell you what, folks, we're going to step away. Nice. We're going to take a quick break. We are the guys from Keep Your Hat On. We are Mark and Ty and Chris and Andy, and we will be right back in just a second. Don't go anywhere.
Chris is the hot one?
Right? What bullshit is that?
It's the hair.
Maybe so. All
right. Hey, everybody. Michael, your stalwart announcer here, the voice of the Keep Your Hat On podcast. We really hope you're enjoying the shows we put out every month and the bonus goofiness we try and throw in. If you do, we'd really appreciate your support. While we'd love it if you could help us out with a monthly donation by heading over to patreon.com/NBBN, please don't forget that you can also support us by telling your friends, relatives, the hot Amazon delivery guy, hell, your potted fern, about the show, and do the like, click, and subscribe thing. That's free, and it helps us out more than you might suspect. We just want to keep putting something good out into this bananas world at this extra bananas time, and we want you along for the ride. No matter what, thanks so much for audio visualizing. Now, let's get back to the show.
And hello, and welcome back to this episode of Keep Your Hat On. I am Andrew Scott, along with Dr. Mark Peterson.
Hi.
And Chris Vicano.
Yo.
And Ty Robert Anthony.
Hello.
What's happening, you guys? Oh, see what I did there? Yeah.
Oh, what's happening?
Yeah, what's happened's another thing that we'll talk about at something. But hey, you guys. And of course, I think the most famous "Hey, you guys" of all time is, of course, "Hey, you guys," and that, of course, is the national treasure,
incomparable
of Rita Moreno. And Rita Moreno is one of those people where I would still, to this day, fawn over her. She is a national treasure, and of course, a national treasure, and a territorial treasure. Is that how we're going to refer to Puerto Rico? Hemispheric. I will give her hemispheric. And again, that she's still out there doing what she does is an absolutely wonderful thing.
Is she still out there?
Oh, of course she is. Yeah,
she's in the new Spielberg version of West Side Story. In fact,
she makes.
Oh my gosh!
You can't do it without Rita Moreno. I mean,
right?
No.
Oh my gosh!
But that does bring us to an interesting place. We so often, in a group environment, or gosh, even in a 3-person environment, we'll say those kind of famous words, "Hey, you guys," and
or just "you guys,"
or "you guys," and of course, everything starts somewhere. And Ty, you stumbled upon something, and this also has a personal connection for you, because this was something that came up in your life, and it made you step back and go, and that's the origin of the phrase "Hey, you guys."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So let's back up for a minute.
Yeah.
I just want to pass this around. When I say microaggressions, what are 1 or 2 words that come to your mind?
Nice shirt.
Yeah. We all know what a microaggression. Well, I shouldn't say that. actually, Ty. You're right. A lot of people don't understand what a microaggression is. A microaggression, and I'm not doing a formal definition, but a microaggression is a little something thrown into a sentence where it seems innocuous, but to certain segments, it might be received as what I'll call kind of a poke in the eye, a subtle, subliminal poke in the eye about some aspect of themselves.
Than intended.
Yeah.
So once again, let's pass it around the room in a word or two. What comes up for you when I say microaggressions?
Like examples of?
Whatever comes up for you.
Yeah.
Just a word or two.
Yeah. Hey, you've got beautiful eyes.
Well, no, actually, what I'd say was at least you have beautiful eyes.
Oh, well, that's just an aggression.
I can see why you got this job.
There you go.
Oh,
there you
ouch.
go.
Yeah.
I understand why you might think that.
It's these kind of backhanded compliments. That's what I'm.
But see, they're not really. They're products of our really negative paradigmatic assumptions that we make without always recognizing it, right?
Yeah.
And that for me, one of the words that comes up for me is indoctrination.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
One of the words that comes up for me is, well, it's actually two words: it's subtly insidious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it might be.
I wasn't clear on what you were asking.
I was just going to say. I was going to say habituation.
There you go.
Habituation.
Yeah. To be clear, microaggressions, by definition from Wikipedia, is a term used commonplace in daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental slights, where whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative attitudes towards stigmatized or culturally marginalized groups.
Yeah, there you go. So it's the cultural norming of language, and I think I can hear where we're headed with this.
Yeah,
you guys.
So how did this pop up for you, Ty?
So the thing is in this last year particularly, I think we've all kind of started to look at where things come from and how they fit into our vernacular today in our current cultural climate.
Sure.
Things like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Right. Even some of the songs that we thought were just harmless little songs.
Oh, nursery rhymes are terrible that way when you really start digging under the hood.
Mm-hmm. Well, have you guys heard this? Coming Around the Mountain?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not a pretty song.
No.
When you really start looking into it.
Oh, Buffalo Gals, Won't You Come Out Tonight?
Yep,
all that sort of minstrel stuff, right?
Yeah.
This is all pretty rough.
So all these things that we've been indoctrinated into thinking are just innocent little stuff over the last year, 2 years, we've kind of, if you've been experimenting and poking around at this stuff, you've probably run down some research and just kind of went, oh, not pretty.
Yeah.
If you haven't, I really invite you to take some time and just start Google some of the songs that you grew up with or that you learned in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And see what their origins are.
I think that whole thing that points out something really interesting to me, and that is, again, we blindly allow things to be enculturated into us, and then really all it takes is a stepping back and a simple investigation. Nobody has an excuse anymore to not be able to look something up and go a little bit rabbit hole-ish with it. And I think you're right, Ty, that the more you do that, the more you educate and inform yourself, and you start seeing, oh, holy shit, I didn't realize I was doing that this whole time. I didn't realize that was what I was putting out there.
Yeah, and it just comes from us trusting the adults in the room that are teaching us these nursery rhymes, or that we're emulating their vernacular, the adult in the room's vernacular, because if they're saying it, it must be acceptable, right?
And again, they might not know. They might not know the history.
Absolutely.
What they were inculcated.
I really don't think that this trend of hunting things down and looking at the complete nursery rhyme lyrics or anything like that has really started maybe the last 3 years, right? So even the adults didn't know, and they got indoctrinated by the adults in the room when they were kids, right?
Agreed.
This is generational. So I'm at a meeting.
Ty, if I could jump in for a second, I do think it goes a little farther back than 3 years, because I recall about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a dust-up over the use of the word picnic. And that it had certain Southern racist implications, and there was a lot of back and forth on that one. But that was outside of the last 3 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to happen historically.
I'm sure that it's happened off and on for these little things here and there since the birth of the internet, right?
Sure.
But what I'm saying is the last 3 years or so, its visibility
has risen up.
It's really taken off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, Ty, where did this suddenly kind of bubble up in your life?
So I'm at a meeting.
Okay.
I'm at a meeting. I'm on a teleconference meeting. All women.
Right.
One of them is my boss. And as the meeting ends, I say, "Thanks, guys." Mm-hmm. Now, I talked to my supervisor. We were talking about it, and I expressed that I felt a little cringy saying that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And she said, "Well, that's not totally bad if you look at where it came from." She actually shot me an article because she had done the same thing too. And which, first of all, I mean, let's go into where it comes from real quick before we talk about how it's taking on the meaning that it's taken on generally in our society currently. So this turns out that if you don't know who Guy Fawkes was
a penny for the old guy,
right?
Yeah, was a 15th century British soldier. He wanted to throw the Protestant-led British government out and bring back the Catholic way of doing things. And so he planned to explode the House of Lords in 1605. And of course,
gunpowder, treason, and plot.
Yep. How does the saying go, Andy? What is that saying that they say over in Britain?
Do you remember the 5th of November? Gunpowder, treason, and plot. It's a full poem. I can't quite remember. Mark, do you remember who actually wrote the poem?
No, but it did show up in V.
Yeah, well, that's
Alan Moore.
That's the most famous. I think that's the most famous use of it. And of course, the Guy Fawkes mask has been taken up. First, really came out during the Occupy movement, but then was adopted by an organization that is infamous in using it, and that is Anonymous. And really, they're certainly not doing anything with it by way of Protestant versus Catholic or anything like that. They use it as a visual identifier for power back to the people.
It is weird, by the way. This always pays to look into these things. That Guy Fawkes actually, when he was captured, turned in his co-conspirators.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
So Ty.
And there were a lot of co-conspirators.
Yeah, go on, Ty.
And we're heading there. And so yes, these events did actually make their way into V for Vendetta. Fawkes, of course, didn't succeed, and so after he was convicted, that's when Parliament 5th of November Act made the day of his thwarted attack a national holiday, which was Andy was just talking about. And in that holiday, there are effigies of Mr. Fawkes.
The Pope.
And there are effigies of the Pope, and they are burned. And so this whole thing started, this trope guys thing started with the effigies being referred to as guys.
Oh, interesting.
And some people began to use guys to refer to actual people. Usually, men of the lowest or most deprived kind.
Of course, right? Because this would be like a slam, right? Is that
so
what
it was a pejorative.
Yeah. It was a pejorative, yeah.
And this was early in the 18th century. So, now we fast forward, we start to see it. Guys eventually shifts its meaning to working class men, then eventually comes to embody, to include all males. And by the middle of the 20th century, to mean females too. We kind of just unconsciously have kind of voted this into our vernacular, and it has kept rolling since the 18th century.
Yeah. And so when you say, hey, you guys, you're actually referring to the Catholic supporters of Guy Fawkes.
Yes. Yeah.
And we didn't know this whole time.
At some point. And so it doesn't have... Now you take it into the 21st century, this is being a term, really used without being gender specific.
Yeah, and that's just it. It's lost its political connotation. It's lost its religious connotation. And now for us, what we're stubbing our toe on is whether or not it has a gender-specific connotation. And that's where you kind of butted up against it.
And that's just it. In this day, in this culture right now, we're grappling with a few things and trying to be aware of the words that come out of our mouths, because words have power.
Exactly.
And
so
the last thing that we want to do is
shape our reality.
Well, not only that, words set the tone for all the words that follow. And if you are blithely and casually using something where you don't know, and I think a lot of this comes down to whether or not we recognize, not even acknowledge, but recognize that something can be interpreted as a microaggression. I mean, as a disabled person, I get this a lot, where people think they're saying something that I will affiliate with or interpret from them as being encouraging, when it's actually not. There's an example. I'm in a number of disabled-centric groups on places like Reddit, where people will often come in and say something that somebody recently said to them that the originating person speaking thought was supportive, but made the person hearing it feel like garbage. And one of the better examples was when a woman went to a doctor and the nurse was triaging them. The nurse said something to the effect of, "You're really strong. I would have killed myself if I had to deal with that." And what they're effectively saying is, your life is so horrible, I wouldn't be willing to live it. And so I think what's really happening overall, and the Hey You Guys is a great illustration of that, is we are allowing ourselves to become more aware of how what we say lands for people, irrespective of what we mean. And I think that's nothing but a good thing. I think we've become way too lazy about language. And we're too accepting of, the good old saying, "Oh, this is how we've always done it." You know what? How we've always done shit is coming back to bite us in the ass in so many different places in modern life right now. I'm all for a re-examination of these things.
We've grown to accept this imbalance in communication. Communication is about intention and reception, and they should be in balance. So you put forth, you say your thing. Behind that is your intention, what you mean, what you think you mean, what you think you're saying. And then reception is how it's landing with the other person. And we've gotten very comfortable with an imbalance where a lot more emphasis is placed on intention. And for a long time, we've gotten away with, "Oh, well, I didn't really mean it that way."
Yeah, the good old trope.
So I think that paradigm is
an unacceptable argument.
Ty?
So that paradigm is in itself, the way that you kind of, what you were kind of putting out there, Chris, is gone to the wayside itself. The idea is, and the way that it was taught to me was, tend to the impact, not the intent.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what my intent was.
It's the balance is shifting back. That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you guys, listen, I mean, in real life, do people actually have any intentions as a rule when they say anything, or does it just come out their face?
I think we always have intentions. I don't know that we're fully cognizant of what our intentions are.
Oh, there you go. Now you're
Yeah.
talking. See, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Because I think it's like, whenever I've said stupid things, I almost never meant to. Right. And as a poster child for sort of white male privilege, I had all sorts of opportunities to say stupid things in my life, and like I figure most of the time now I'm aware of them, and so I don't say them anymore because I think that they're stupid. But a lot of that wasn't deliberate, but it's lurking in our our long-term habits and in the what the culture finds to be acceptable. I mean, it's like, I was thinking about the difference between aggressions and microaggressions. I think, when people want to be really aggressive, they just say, then they actually really intend it, don't they?
Yeah.
But the microaggressions, for instance, I don't know if any of you, so I grew up, let's go to the source of this. I grew up, well, not yet, but when I was a much younger person, you would watch Don Rickles on Ed Sullivan.
Oh, yeah, and he would have no career today.
And it's like, oh, good golly, Miss Molly. It's like, that stuff's not funny. And it was hilarious in 1964.
Yeah.
Or Jackie Mason doing Jewish shtick on Ed Sullivan. Even that stuff would be a little bit twitchy nowadays,
yeah,
right?
most Borscht Belt stuff doesn't land well these days, even for the Jewish community.
Or even going back earlier to Henny Youngman.
Oh, yeah, for instance. Well, so I remember asking my mom, this was 1963. It's like, because we could never say stuff like that. And I remember even asking as like a 5-year-old, it's like, how come he can say that? And he goes, well, it's okay. He's Jewish, right? Or if Flip Wilson made jokes about African Americans, right? Or if Richard Pryor did, it was okay because they were black, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'd love to make jokes about Vikings, but there's really nothing funny about
I don't know.
Vikings.
We just need to build that muscle, that's all.
What
Mark,
about those
that
hats?
brings up a really good point, and I've really been looking at this in reflecting about this. Is just comedy in general, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that's, if I'm paying attention, my laughter, the things that I think are funny, are things that make me feel uncomfortable slightly. Right?
Yeah.
The things that I would never do or say, but let's face it, may have thought about it.
And somebody else is manifesting it for you. So you laugh, but then you go, I'm not supposed to be laughing about that, but at least you said it.
Some of us did laugh, and I'll just own this, and I feel terrible about it now, but I mean, I laughed at Andrew Dice Clay.
Sure.
Not all the time, but here and there, right? And it's like, but I think that's right, Ty. One of the working definitions I have when I think about comedy is this idea that comedy is what calls attention to the fact that you're in a really stupid place, and you just hadn't noticed it yourself. Mm-hmm. It calls attention to the falsity, right, of your presentation to the public, right? That hypocrisy.
Well, and I think I've come to a similar. In viewing comedies or comedy shows or sketches or something like that, what I've come across is it's kind of cathartic, right? So
absolutely.
Just like I would watch that ultra-violent movie, right?
John Wick.
And I'm not gonna come on. It's not steeped in reality.
No,
it's not something that I'm gonna think about doing, but I'm going to be entertained by it, and maybe some feelings of aggression are lifted away from me by watching it.
Bit of a cleansing. Yeah.
It's good to think about. I like that idea of comedy as cathartic, because what that does, right, it's undoing some internal tensions you might not have known you had, right? Is that what you mean?
Well, and it's interesting to look back, of course, when we think about comedy, we also think about its antipode, which is tragedy. And
maybe you do.
Fair point. But when we think about comedy and tragedy, one of the things, unless you've really kind of dug into the comedic and tragic model in Greek oratory and in Greek entertainment, the word catharsis is really important there, because people misunderstand comedy and tragedy, that comedy is supposed to make you laugh and tragedy is supposed to make you cry. Actually, in truth, comedy is supposed to help make you cry and tragedy is supposed to help make you laugh, because they're both based in pointing out the absurdity of things. And once you are able to see the absurdity of the circumstance you're in, then that is the path towards catharsis, which is a release, as Mark said, a release of that inner tension in, should I laugh at this? Am I supposed to cry at this? I don't know how I feel, so I'm just going to let myself react in whatever way my body mind feels is proper.
Yeah. I to this day, what I'm thinking about, what's coming up for me right now, in terms of something cathartic that you laugh at. There is a routine in the Kings of Comedy by Bernie Mac. And it is hilarious. And it is just so wrong. But his delivery and the telling of the story, and it is kind of like I said, I've come to accept that most of my laughter is from a nervous or anxious place.
I am grateful that you brought this up, Ty, insofar as one of the things I've been trying to do, especially over the last couple of years, is degender my language. I'm not one of these people that gets grumpy when, well, you can't call a man anymore. Good.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Fucking fine. We don't have other ways that we can refer to each other that's more neutral. Are you so invested in your own sense of what makes a man that doing it in another way threatens your own sense of masculinity? Grow up and take the time and take this opportunity culturally to examine how you speak to people and be more aware of how these things might impact somebody else, irrespective of your intentions. Because as we've all mentioned at one point in time or another in this conversation, what we say and what we intend to communicate at times can be at odds with each other accidentally or subliminally towards ourselves. Why not take the time to examine? Examining produces nothing but good things, if only to bring you to a greater point of sensitivity towards what you're putting out in the world.
You're absolutely right. There are two exercises I apply to myself in this process. I'm also trying to, change and be more mindful. And there are two maxims that I always keep in mind. And one is, if it wasn't in your head, why would it fall out your mouth? And then the corollary is, if that just fell out of my mouth, what was it doing in my head?
Very good. Yeah.
So I don't know. Knowing that it was by the mid 20th century, gender neutral, and was just meant as kind of a all about dig. Mm-hmm. Does that help you want to continue with that?
Maybe not. And I mean, that's the interesting thing.
So now, if you really look at the history, saying, hey guys, or you guys, right? Mm-hmm. Does it still hold the sting of a dig?
Hey, you treasonous plotters.
Right?
Well,
yeah, it certainly has never carried an insult sort of sense for me, because I've lived in a time well clear of that, as have you guys. There, I just did it. It's in there. I mean,
it's baked in.
Yeah,
and it's for us. It's for us to unbake it a little bit.
To find new words, and that's a particular one that I have a hard time breaking around, because the only good alternatives I've found are like "you people," which feels awkward, or "y'all," which
does it feel awkward because it's just something
feels
that
inauthentic to
but
me
y'all. What I'm trying, yes, I agree.
When you say it does. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Coloradan white boy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not from the South.
But Chris, does it feel awkward just because you're not practiced in it?
It could be. It also honestly, it's two syllables rather than one, and it changes the rhythm of the language.
So you're just lazy.
Well, but that's Ty. That circles back.
Comfort. It's too many syllables.
Yeah, Ty. That circles back around to what I said earlier, and that is a lot of this is because people are okay with being lazy about language, and exactly. the thing is what they're doing is they're not actually being lazy about language. They're being lazy about communication, and that is inherently different.
I have a weird story about this, by the way. And Andy, I might have told you this some years ago, but
there's always a good chance of that.
Yeah, probably. It's like, yeah, I know. It's like, and my I'm turning into my dad, which is like the really scary part, because my dad was the one who goes, "Oh, I got a story about this." And I was like, "All right, somebody get the bourbon."
Yeah, we're gonna be here a bit.
We want to try to be. I remember my adopted grandmother when I first, that thing when you first start to feel like you're turning into your parents, in your early 20s, you start to hear them come out of your mouth and stuff.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my God, I'm turning into my father." And she smiled and said, "Oh, sweetheart, maybe you'll be a milder version."
a slightly more palatable version.
I had something, I was really interesting about the communication and about the sort of asymmetries involved in it, and when you're paying attention to what you're saying and when you aren't. And this came from when I spent a year in Riga in Latvia when I was on sabbatical back in the 90s. And the really interesting, I noticed this after just like a month or two. So if you're in Latvia, so first of all, like nobody speaks Latvian, right? I mean, it's one of those weird, Latvian and Lithuanian are its own little weird twig on the end of a linguistics tree, like Finnish and Estonian are, right? It's like they're Martian. But I'm in Riga, and it's like, I was getting by because if they didn't speak English, they spoke German, and so I was able to hobble along with that, and enough Latvian to like operate menus and stuff.
The important shit, yeah.
But what I noticed there, because I was working with these environmental NGOs like the Swedish Wildlife Foundation, some German ones, and stuff like this, and so everybody's kind of using English as sort of like the
lingua franca kind of thing,
yeah, that's pretty funny though if you think about it.
Very much.
Anyway,
is, yeah.
But what I noticed was so we have these meetings with like 10 or 15 people. Everybody would be very careful to say, now when I say this, here's what I'm trying to say, and I don't speak English that well. So do you understand that this is what I mean? And what I realized, this is really something, was that in Latvia, within like 300 miles of Riga, there's like 5 or 6 or 7 completely different languages, none of which can understand each other, right? They're not even cognates, right? That's okay. So what would happen was everybody would be very careful to assume that if other people didn't understand them, it was their fault, right? I'm not making myself understood.
Okay.
And I thought how different that was from Americans, because if other people can't understand us, we figure it's their fault.
Yeah, we immediately put the onus of understanding on them.
Right, and so this was like a completely different way of looking at the world. Yeah, so very much, and it's like if I'm not being understood, if I'm an American, it's not my fault. It's your fault for not understanding me. Well, a lot of other places in the world, if you're not understood, you assume maybe it's your fault for not being able to express yourself properly.
Right.
There's that classic trope of Americans traveling abroad and saying something in English, and when the person clearly doesn't understand, they say it louder.
Yeah. That just doesn't work. But tell you what, everybody, we are going to take a quick break and come back with something I'm not even going to refer to right now because I'm afraid that I'm going to set the timer starting for me. But Chris is going to get us straight on that. This is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. This is Keep Your Hat On. This is Dr. Mark Peterson and Ty Robert Anthony and Chris Vicano, and we will be right back. Hi, everybody. This is Andrew Scott, the host and producer of the Keep Your Hat On podcast. Look, this pandemic has been really hard on all of us. There's no question. Things were so bad for so long. Everybody locked away, praying to stay healthy, hoping for a solution. And for a while, things started legitimately getting better. But now, just when we were thinking we could get back to some kind of normal, we have the Delta variant, which is much more transmissible, like 60% more. And it makes more people sicker, including young people. We may be through with coronavirus, but coronavirus is sure the hell not through with us. Feeling helpless feels awful, but we are not helpless. Both of the mRNA vaccines are highly effective against both the Gamma and Delta variant, especially when it comes to keeping people out of the hospital. Statistically speaking, if you get either mRNA shot, your chances of getting coronavirus are very, very low. And if by some unfortunate quirk you do, your chances of passing it on are significantly lower. Your chances of having to be hospitalized are even lower, and your chances of dying are nearly zero. Yes, both Pfizer and Moderna are working on variant-specific boosters right now. But honestly, any shot of any kind is better than remaining unprotected. Truth is, the more unvaccinated people we have, the more mutations and variants we'll see. And there's a chance they'll be even worse than what we're dealing with now. You're sick of this? We're sick of this. So do what it takes to help fight it. Do everyone a favor. Keep wearing your mask in public. Stay vigilant. And get your damn shot. Any shot. That's how we fight this fucking virus. For all of us. In the US, go to vaccines.gov or contact your local health authority worldwide to find out where to get yours today. This has been a public service message from the KYHO team. And hello, we are back for the last segment of Keep Your Hat On. That was the hissing Dr. Mark Peterson. That is the very shiny Ty Robert Anthony.
Very shiny today.
Very shiny. And we are going over to the, apparently the hot one.
The hot one.
Chris Vacano and
100,000 on the Schofield scale.
Right.
I think
Schofield.
I think the ego's going to have a hard time moving out the door.
Well, the good news about that is, Lego my ego, very good.
Lego my ego.
But
guys,
Chris, you are going to get us all prepared for what, of course, is the most. I'm not going to say it's the most wonderful time of the year. It is, for some of us, the most dangerous time of year.
It is. It's that time of year again. It's that time of year again when you're out at a cafe, the shopping mall, with friends at a work party, and wham! Last Christmas. It's Whamageddon time.
This is very Gen X specific, but it's suddenly your ears are assaulted by the wondrous tones of George Michael and a song that you just don't really want to find yourself swimming in.
That's right. And honestly, for me, I will cop to it. I kind of like Last Christmas. It's just me.
It's not an offensive song.
Yeah, they're a lot worse.
Oh God, yes.
So a little bit about Whamageddon.
Yeah, where did this come from?
About this.
Yeah.
It started, it's roughly pegged to about 2010. It started on an internet forum called GT Planet.
Okay.
And it was originally GT Planet versus Wham! Last Christmas. And they started the game on that forum. And essentially what it was let me break down the current rules as they're understood. They were about the same as the original rules.
Right.
So these are like the official Whamageddon rules. And yes, there's a website and everything. Number 1, the player must go as long as possible without hearing Wham's Christmas song Last Christmas.
Oh, sorry.
You are fucker. You were so ahead of the curve.
Except that fails against rule number 2.
Which is?
Rule number 2, the game starts on the 1st of December and ends midnight on the 24th of December. Saved by the calendar.
Yeah.
Number 3, only the original version of Last Christmas applies. The player can listen to remixes and covers.
To their heart's content.
or until their ears bleed.
Right,
Didn't Johnny Cash put a version of that on his last album?
Oh God, I hope
that
not.
That would be awesome.
Oh, let's hope not.
Yeah, we're dramatically divided here in the KYHO camp whether or not that would be a good thing or a bad thing.
No, that would be a bad thing.
I agree.
I would love it.
Hey, he fixed Depeche Mode, man. I'm just saying.
Oh, if he did it like he did Hurt, that's slow and low and dark. I mean, that would be so cool.
Well, we'll get into the beauty of Rick Rubin at another time.
I'm going to get that.
We've got more rules here.
Okay, keep going.
So the player is out. Rule 4: the player is out as soon as they recognize the original version of the song. Rule number 5: the player must post I'm sorry, that's a me thing. Hashtag Whamageddon on social media as soon as they lose the game.
Right.
Number 6, players can play on a player versus player mode if they wish by sending links to the songs two friends to try to get them out of the game. Yet this is not encouraged.
Oh, what dirty pool that is.
Yeah, really.
All you need is a tiny URL. That doesn't. Oh, that's not cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna rickroll somebody, rickroll them.
Right, just rickroll them. That's all.
Yeah, don't do this. And rule number 7, and this is the last of the official rules: playing Last Christmas outside another competitor's house is considered dastardly and should be avoided.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And when I read that, I got this John Cusack holding up
the boombox, outside with the '74 Pontiac. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I gotta tell you, the last time that I heard it before Mark just started playing it was probably never.
Well,
I mean, I may have heard it. And
I'm kind of with Ty here. It's like, okay, a song that I really,
So I think that brings us all 4 of us, to a place, and that is this year, because this is our inaugural year at a podcast.
Yeah,
we are playing Whamageddon.
All right.
I think so. I think what's going to happen here is, if you follow us on social media, keep your eye out, because we're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're going to reveal. And we're going to reveal what order we go out in. I don't think I don't know if there's going to be a prize. I'll figure out a prize.
Yeah, I think we should have some kind of award.
And Mark, you are not allowed to stealth in. You're not allowed tomorrow to learn this and then stealth it in on the ukulele. That's as bad as driving up to our house.
Oh no, my band is now going to record this as Johnny Cash.
Fuck you.
Ukulele version would be fine, because that's covered by the.
That's a cover.
Oh, he's right. It's not the original.
Okay,
it's not the original.
All right. You know what? I have to stand by and go. Yeah,
rules. We have rules for a reason, isn't that right?
Exactly.
That's so true.
I think that's
Ty's
pretty.
Ty and I. We should do this on. We'll do this for Christmas, Ty.
I've got a little more texture on this, if I could.
Yes, please.
People who are out are sent to Whamhalla. That is the term for people who are knocked out.
Or Whamguard.
Whamguard. And there are some alternate variants of the game. In 2016, there was a version surrounding Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues.
Right.
And the one rule that applied to that game was no Pogue rolling.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that like Rick rolling?
Yep. And then GT Planet themselves, since George Michael passed away on Christmas Day in 2016, they tried to change. They basically changed the rules of the GT Planet version of the game to "All I Want for Christmas Is You" by Mariah Carey, which is just ruthless, because that song is inescapable, and at the same time it's wonderful, because that song is so horrible.
Yeah.
Am I the only one who really doesn't like Mariah Carey?
No, you are not the only one.
Okay. Sometimes I wonder.
I respect her as a vocalist. I respect her as a musician.
Obviously brilliant
whatever,
as a vocalist.
I can live for the rest of my life happily without.
As a human being.
Sorry about that, everybody. But
no problem. Well, I tell you what. Again, this is Ty.
We're doing it. Whamageddon.
Overdue on the uke, because it's going to be affecting my ability to edit.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Mark,
but
just
save it for when I desperately need uke, which is every once in a while. Okay, so
don't lie.
Shush. I'll listen to Iz anytime I want. Thank you very much, or Jake, or any of a number of other masters of the craft. But
speaking of Jake, new album.
Oh, really?
And if you all thought that the ukulele was a novelty, there are some things. There's a song with Jack Johnson that rips it up.
Oh, he'd kill it. And by the let me recommend my friend Stu. Go ahead, Ty.
And there's a song with Billy Strings.
Oh man, Billy Strings is on fire these days. Just won himself a Country Music Award, and one of those new country artists that I just got to tell you, everybody that's listening, no matter where you are in the world, if you don't like American country music, you need to check in with what's happening now, because American country music.
I was about this guy like 8 months ago,
yeah,
a year ago.
and
Dust in the Baggie is just a hilarious, good blues.
Oh hell yeah, it is. So definitely check out these new things, because I'm one of the people that says that we're not reinventing country music. What we're doing is we're taking country music back. And there's such good new music happening now that I think probably our next cycle of my 3 songs should be focusing on that, on what's really happening now in country music and all country.
It's so funny how things come around, right? This is I'm going to start sounding.
It's that 20-year cycle.
It must be, I hitchhiked out to Texas in about 1975 to Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic.
There you go.
But in Austin, I discovered Jerry Jeff Walker and what they then called progressive country, and it changed. That was it, man, forever, man. Texas Trilogy, if you can find it, it's on YouTube now. One of the great albums ever made.
One of the greatest albums ever made, without question.
So we're having a resurgence in country music. There's a lot of it going back to like roots music, right?
Yeah,
we're hearing that more and more. The Avett Brothers, right, for instance, and stuff, and
the last couple albums that both Tyler Childers and and Sturgill Simpson did. Sturgill did his entire 4-album sweep, and during lockdown brought it in and did trad bluegrass versions of all his most popular songs because it was always in his mind to do so. And when the pandemic rolled around, after he recovered from COVID, he was just like, I got to get this done. I got to get this in the bag. But
I'm glad I kept my hat on for that because I'm out of time.
Hey, Mark, yes. Wasn't there like a shameless plug that you were going to make?
Yes, please. You were saying about your friend. Mention your friend.
Oh, my ukulele buddies. You were talking about Jake Shimabukuro. Well, one of his great students was this guy named Craig Chee, Chee. And Craig and Sarah now, if you can check them out on YouTube. Craig's a great guy. We were his first ukulele festival.
Oh, awesome!
And so I have a real soft place. But he and his wife Sarah Meisel are insane. They do kind of jazz standards on.
Oh, neat!
And you wouldn't believe it.
Well, we will
Chee. You can find him.
No,
easy.
we'll link to him in the show description because again, we're the Candymen when it comes to stuff that we find that we love.
Yeah.
And
so true.
That is going to do it for this episode of Keep Your Hat On. This is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. We are the guys from Keep Your Hat On. We are the humans, the people,
Speak for yourself.
The life forms of Keep Your Hat On.
Folks.
That is Dr. Mark Peterson out in Wisconsin. That is Ty Robert Anthony over on the other side of town. That is Chris Vicano down the street from me. I'm Andrew Scott, and we will see you next time on Keep Your Hat On because we may end up miles from here. Take care, everybody. We will talk to you again soon. Oh, see, I'm waving at the camera, and I shouldn't be doing that anymore. We'll talk to you again soon, people. Take care, and bye-bye.
Well, there's a chunk of time you can't get back. From Portland, Oregon, this has been Keep Your Hat On, a big little show about a whole lot of nothing in particular. Keep Your Hat On is a Narrowband Broadcast Network production in association with PodSquadPDX.com. Andrew Scott, executive producer. Robert Anthony and Chris Vicano, associate producers. Our theme music was written and produced by Andrew Scott, along with help from Ron Kajawa. Website design and maintenance by Vicano Creative, Chris Vicano Webmaster. Available at VicanoCreative.com. Audio and video production by Andrew Scott, available at AndrewScottMedia.com. Got ideas or comments for the show? Email us at talkback@kyhopodcast.com, and don't forget to like, click, and subscribe. On behalf of the boys, I'm your announcer, Michael Brumage. Thanks for listening. I guess.
All right, overdoing it. Messes up my ability to edit, even though I love the sound.
Damn it, Mark.
Damn it, Ty.
You're on camera, son.
You guys.
You guys. You. Gunpowder, treason, and plot.
NBBN. The Narrowband Broadcast Network. The focus is on you.